Hello, happy people. Good morning, good evening, whatever the case may be from wherever you're at. Today we're going to be talking about an individual who isn't famous, and that if you're not a part of the film community here on YouTube, Twitter, whatnot, you probably don't have any idea who she is. However, if you are a part of the film community and whatnot, her name might be a bit notorious for you. Her name is Grace Randolph, and she is a name that has come under a lot of controversy and ridicule, and especially lately, and she just recently got herself in yet another little situation that got her some even more ridicule. But I want to be clear that going into this video, this is not a hate piece on Grace Randolph. It is merely a discussion about her, because I watched Grace Randolph, and I know that admitting that is immediately going to get people who do know her criticizing me, who can't understand why. And then there's going to be other people who have no idea who is Grace Randolph. Maybe you've heard her name thrown out. Why do people dislike her so much? Why is James Gunn beefing with her on social media? Well, let's explain. But before we get into this video, I would like to specially shout out myself. I have a short film I've been working on for months on and off as I've been trying to run this channel, and it is almost complete. In fact, I am in the home stretch just getting the final sound effects done. It is going to release on this channel soon. I think that it's going to be really great. My biggest goal with this was just to be entertaining. I really hope that you guys will watch it and give me feedback, and if you think it is worthy, share it to other people so that I can get my filmmaking side going. Thank you so much, but without further ado, let's get on to the video. Grace Randolph is a media commentator, a lot like I am. She started out in the comic book industry, actually. She wrote for some comics and graphic novels. She wrote for Bleeding Cool for a while, or I think she did videos for them, but anyway, she kind of worked her way up, becoming a journalist to becoming a YouTuber, a YouTuber/journalist. She still considers herself a journalist, and she built a channel from there. And you can see a lot of her top videos are from like 9 or 10 or even 15 years ago when she initially got that following. But anyway, she does have an audience, and she is kind of well known in the film community and whatnot. But why does Grace Randolph have viewers, and why does she get hate? Well, the reason why I watch her is because Grace surprisingly has some dead-on analysis of the box office. She's very good at analyzing why a movie is successful, why it's failing, and in terms of the lead-up to a film, seeing, is this going to be successful? Is this going to fail? Looking at it purely from a business perspective of if it's going to sell tickets or not. And I think that her business analysis is pretty impressive, all in all, and that's why people listen to her. And she does have inside information and whatnot, and that has also gotten her into controversy with how, things she said that have turned out wrong. I would just say, as a defense, Grace is as correct or incorrect as literally any other insider out there. They all need to be taken with a grain of salt. Some have said some true things, some have said some false things. Nobody has a 100% great track record. She has gotten things correct in the past, and she does know people in the industry. So, which is a funny thing to say in this. So why does Grace Randolph get a lot of hate and ridicule? Well, I've said that she's very good at box office analysis, but it's when she starts talking about the movies themselves that things get hairy. For example, a scandal that I can talk about, or not a scandal, she just has some things come out of her mouth that are very strange. For example, when the Super Mario Brothers movie came out, she seemed to not like the film, and it really threw her for a loop because she had not been playing Super Mario. But she laid claim that part of the problem with the film is that Bowser chasing Peach was stalker behavior, and that the movie was inappropriate for children as a result.
I would also say it's a little disturbing, because apparently in the games, Bowser, I had to look it up, Bowser is obsessed with Princess Peach. But in today's marketplace, post-Me Too, to hear Bowser declare that he's going to ask Princess Peach to marry him, which apparently isn't a spoiler, because I looked it up and it happens in the games all the time, but he's like, I'm going to ask Princess Peach to marry me. What if she doesn't want to? And he's like, then I'll destroy her kingdom and kill everyone she knows. And you're like, Wow, that's stalker behavior, and I would say kind of makes this not appropriate for children, quite frankly.
Yeah, this gets her a lot of ridicule in and of itself for saying such a crazy claim, and this kind of gives you an idea of what it's like to follow Grace Randolph, is that she seems very level-headed when she talks about the box office, and in a lot of her reviews, I would just say she comes from a very subjective lens. Like, everybody comes from their own bias when it comes to reviews. You do have to look at movies a little bit more objectively when you're trying to be a reviewer. Grace seems like she reviews very subjectively a lot and just what her own tastes are at the time and not really considering other people beyond, once again, the business perspective. But what we lead into areas like this where she'll just be saying things outright ridiculous. I think part of Grace's problem is she tries way too hard to be a part of every fan base and have the knowledge of every fan base when that's just not possible.
When could Mario turn into a cat? I guess, like, if you're into furries, that works. And maybe that'll play really well in Asian markets. I know they love cats over there, like, love cats. But I just felt it robbed Mario of a lot of his personal dignity.
I mean, she knows comic books. She does have a history with DC and Marvel, so it really shows when she does discussions on that. But she doesn't necessarily know Mario, and trying to be a spokesperson for that just doesn't work out for her. I mean, other crazy things she said. I mean, you know, when you're criticizing someone for their reviews, everyone has their own taste, yes. But recently this year, there was a movie called Borderlands that came out, and it got 6% on Rotten Tomatoes when it was first released. And that positive review was from Grace Randolph. And once again, you might say that, oh, everyone has their own taste. You just have to accept it, no matter how much you might think it's odd. But Grace spent her entire review for Borderlands talking about Joan Crawford.
Might not be familiar with the work of Joan Crawford. Get familiar! She's an icon for a reason. Not only her wonderful slate of films, I've thrown up some here that you should definitely check out. I watch Mildred Pierce every couple of years, it's so good. Really, an incredible talent. And Joan Crawford was around, like, since before the talkies, I think. You know, like, Joan Crawford really was Hollywood.
To lead into talking about how much she loves Cate Blanchett and not actually talking about the movie, even though she gave it a positive review. This is what I mean when I'm talking about reasons why people just can't understand Grace Randolph, is we can't understand where things are coming from when she's doing reviews. Like, how did she come to the conclusion that Borderlands is enjoyable because of Joan Crawford, because Joan Crawford reminds her of Cate Blanchett, vice versa? Stuff like that is just plain strange, and this is why a lot of people just can't understand Grace Randolph. But her most recent scandal was talking about the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, and it seems that Grace in the past has understood that her throwing these takes out there that she might have in her brain aren't a good idea, but then she had this take on Sonic the Hedgehog 3.
Now, I have learned from the Super Mario experience, you know, this is just my take on it.
Grace.
I don't really know if Shadow and Maria should have been hanging out together so much.
No.
I was, you know, because Shadow, like, very much was adult coded. It wasn't like two kids hanging out. You know, I'm glad Maria was such a kind person, but they didn't need to, I don't know. I'd be like, I think you guys could have magical times together with adult supervision. But they didn't need to watch movies together, you know, cozying up in her room. Why not in the commissary with everybody else?
I love how in that clip she acknowledges that it wouldn't be a good idea to bring it up, but then she does. Grace, Shadow is not an adult man hanging out with a little girl. He is a 15-year-old hedgehog. I know he has a deeper voice, but their relationship is supposed to be two kids hanging out. Why would you be looking at this and seeing it as a child-predator relationship? That's what I mean by people find Grace Randolph odd to listen to, and I find these comments about Super Mario and Sonic to be ironic, because you would think that Grace maybe is just really, really sensitive about that kind of thing, and I've gotten the impression of that before. Fair enough, but then there's other times where she's said odd things, like Magneto manipulating Rogue in X-Men 97 was him giving her a pretty good offer. I mean, I'm going to talk about that whole thing in a scripted video later, but saying that for Percy Jackson, they needed to hire a sexy actor to play a 14-year-old. Grace is just someone where I cannot figure out her psychology. I don't understand how she even comes up with these things, and that's my problem with her. Sure, you're going to have reviewers out there that that you disagree with and that you just don't add up with when it comes to taste. It's just that Grace says very, very odd things where I don't understand how she even came to those conclusions, and that's part of the reason why Grace gets so much ridicule. I mean, she did have a little beef with James Gunn. Apparently there was a story spread about him. I can't remember. It had to do with Marvel, something about Thanos. Apparently everyone apologized to him, and he alleges Grace didn't, and that's why he has beef with her. Though he did kind of nuke her about in this little line about how she always spouts lies. That's not true. Grace has gotten things correct in the past as I've followed her, including she was correct about there being a Middle Eastern storyline for the Superman movie. Gunn was just hiding in the minutia that it was the fictional version of the Middle East, the one described and is described differently in DC, but she was right on that. And so with that said, I do think that Grace sometimes gets unfairly nuked by other people about accusing her of being just a liar and this awful person behind the scenes. I just from my perspective, I don't know everything behind the scenes, but from my perspective, she gets undue hate. But the reason why I think she's very easily for people to ridicule and sort of become an enemy is because she's had all these crazy takes and things, and when she does get something, get backlash for a scoop being wrong, she kind of really tries to defend herself, and it doesn't really work out. So I think that's why a lot of people find it easy to hate on Grace Randolph, because she said these things before, she's easy to ridicule, and so they come after her. But one last thing to note about Grace Randolph is that, and why I think people might have a problem with her, is that she's very wishy-washy, and a lot of people have accused her of being a grifter because of that. And maybe she is, or where we could, people accuse everyone of being a grifter on YouTube these days, but I would say more that she gives into peer pressure. For example, she was very vehemently against the Birds of Prey movie as a fan of the characters, didn't like them going inaccurate to the comics, didn't think it was going to sell at the movies, and she got a lot of hate from the Birds of Prey defenders at the time, if you can even remember them. And the peer pressure from these people made her literally change her review to a positive one on Rotten Tomatoes, literally stating that it was because of these other people and what they were saying the movie meant to them. And recently, she's been very critical of Superman. And I think whether it's about Grace's beef with Gunn or whether she legitimately doesn't like the Superman film, because I'm not too thrilled with what I've seen so far, I think she has the right to that opinion. But recently she changed it and said that she's now going to support the movie because she likes to feel like she's a part of the party. So yeah, I think that is another reason why people take a lot of issue with her, and why I would take issue with her, because I'm like, you can have your opinion, but at least stick to your guns about it. I mean, Borderline, she was praising that because of Joan Crawford or whatever, and then she went on to put it on her worst movies of the year list when she saw that's what everyone else was doing. I actually think it might have to do with grifting, but I think some of it has to do with Grace being very susceptible to peer pressure and wanting to be on the right side, But I think that's another reason why people take issue with her. However, why does she have an audience, and why does anyone listen to her? Well, for one thing, once again, she does have surprisingly interesting and insightful business knowledge, and I like hearing about that on and off. But the other reason why I watch her is you just can't look away, You just can't look away from this person, and I don't wish her any ill will. I don't wish her any hate, but it is kind of an odd thing to watch through these years. As you'll watch Grace Randolph and you'll think, boy, she's got some good, box office knowledge, and then she'll come out with a statement like implying Shadow the Hedgehog is a child predator or stuff like that. So now you know the tale of Grace Randolph and why she's kind of a notorious figure in the community. And I don't think that she's going to change anytime soon, but I also don't think her audience is ever going to go away. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please comment below. Thank you, patrons, as always. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.